Hey, what's up, Street Blogs? This is Eric Kim from the Eric Blog Street Photography Blog. So I wanted to do a quick video with you on why blog. So I think this is actually an interesting thing is I've technically been blogging since I was like maybe 15, 14 years old. And I still remember the early days. The first blog that really caught my attention was Maddox. Maddoxx, I think. It was like the most politically incorrect thing. And I think I was in like elementary school and I read all those articles. I was like laughing out loud. Like there's the one on like why you should beat your kids. And obviously it's all satire, right? But then, you know, I could totally relate with it. So even in the early days of Zanga, I remember I would try to create my own like Maddox ripoff and stuff like that. And it was kind of my first foray into blogging and kind of a strange way of foray into philosophy too, because a lot of what I blogged about in like high school was, you know, about like why kids are emo and, you know, how to be happier in life. It's interesting. I was already thinking pretty turbo thoughts back in high school, but anyways. And as I just started getting older, I just kind of blogged for fun. I never intended to make a living out of it, nor did I even think it was possible, or I didn't even really necessarily want to. And the interesting thing with blogging too is that even nowadays when I think about myself, I would actually probably think of myself first as a blogger rather than a photographer, because my passion for blogging actually precedes my passion for photography. I was probably blogging, I mean, this is like kind of before there was like digital cameras too. Like I was like blogging in like what, early 2000s, I guess. And then I think at the time there's just like a 1 megapixel Canon point and shoot digital camera, and it was just like $500. It's way too expensive. But anyways, so I think it's actually really amazing because, I mean, to be frank, currently right now in 2019's preset, I think right now blogging is actually technically dead. Nobody talks about blogging, and the only vibrant place for blogging I think right now is medium.com, but I don't know if that's really dying off either. But the idea is, man, in the early days of the internet, I still remember like AOL 3.0 and stuff like that. Internet was supposed to be like a revolution, right? Is that like we were supposed to finally regain the means of production. It was like kind of, it's quite Marxist in that regard. And with the internet, you have access to do anything, be anything. You know, you could be a furry, you could be, you know, like a different ethnicity, a different race, a different gender, like you play Second Life or The Sims or whatever. It was quite optimistic. But now I think we've kind of fallen into this malaise in the internet, is that at this point, like no one even thinks about the internet anymore. We just think about like apps and YouTube. We think about Instagram, Facebook stories, and all this stupid bullshit. And it's kind of like a shittier internet. I saw this graphic on the internet, but do you remember when you used to log into AOL? Like, I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm 30. So when you first log into AOL 3.0, you had like a portal, an internet portal. And that's kind of what we have now, is that we enter Facebook, Instagram, and you know, Facebook owns Instagram. And we're essentially like stupefied. I mean, it's really sad is that we're just being hijacked for our eyeballs and our attention just to be sold more ads. And man, every time I see a TV on too, like, I'm like, seriously, still there's like people watching television? Like people still own television in their house and people watch live television? It's kind of insane. And you know, I would think by now that all TV and stuff would have died, but honestly, it's a little bit sad. I mean, I think it's a combination of both things, but I think generally the most people to be culpable is, I don't really blame the individuals. I generally blame these big corporations who have like hired, you know, thousands of these cognitive scientists, Russian PhDs to learn how to hijack our attention, behavioral economists, these like attention hackers, and essentially the cards are stacked against us. Like I even know for myself, the only way I'm able to focus on anything on the internet, I have like 1 trillion ad blockers and trackers enabled on my computer. Also, I intentionally don't look at stats, and I never log into Facebook and stuff like that. And so the internet right now is kind of a shitty place, which is a little bit sad. And I think it's actually very disempowering for creators, because you think the only way to make it as a creator is you had to get like 1 trillion YouTube subscribers, 1 trillion Facebook, Instagram followers. And people have forgot this thing. It's like, you could make something called a website. Huh? What's that? Or you could blog. Huh? What's that? It's like people, like kids nowadays, they know what blogging is. Oh, I want to become a YouTube vlogger, but they don't know what a blog is, which is hilarious because it's the same word except it's a B, not a V. And actually, in fact, I think blogging is more important than vlogging because let's say you start vlogging or whatever, and you're still kind of dependent on YouTube. So I've said about this in the past, but you don't want to build your kingdom on quicksand, and you don't want to be what I call a digital sharecropper, which is you're building your own equity on someone else's land. So for example, YouTube's owned by Google. Whenever you upload anything to YouTube, probably wouldn't happen. But if one day Google or YouTube was like, okay, we see that your videos don't follow community guidelines, we're gonna actually delete your whole account or delete all your videos. I mean, there's nothing you could do to control this. And obviously it's probably not gonna happen to most people, but even a thing to consider, let's say you're actually able to become quite famous as a YouTuber, and let's say you start monetizing your videos and stuff like that, and let's say you're actually making your living off of YouTube ads or whatever. If one day YouTube, Google, let's say you violate some sort of something, they could cut out all the advertisements from your videos, and then boom, your income goes to fucking zero, and then you're fucked, right? Whereas if you own your own blog, which is a self-hosted blog through, generally I recommend a host like bluehost.com and then installing wordpress.org, you have 100% control over your platform. You could control what to do, what not to do. And I think, obviously, if you want quick gains in terms of like, oh, I want to see the likes and see more followers, stuff like that, obviously Instagram's the way to go. But if you want to, if you want to aim for longevity, like I've been in the game for over a decade at this point, honestly, the whole thing is the blog. And I think at this point, Google is essentially controlling all the world's information. And I think it is a good strategy to get into bed with Google, which means the more you blog, the more you're indexed by Google. And therefore, whenever someone's searching some sort of topic on anything, hopefully your website or blog will go to the top. And the way to rank higher in Google is simple. Just blog more. Write articles or, create information or sources of knowledge which pertain to your topic, and just be consistent. And I mean, it's kind of insane though, because I don't know what Google's algorithm is right now, but generally Google favors fresh content. So the more current your information is, the better. So, which generally means the more you publish, the more frequently you publish, the better. Which, it's like the whole publish or die thing in academia. I mean, I don't think you necessarily have to follow it, but generally, with blogging, don't worry too much about optimizing your blog for Google or stuff like that. In fact, most of my most popular articles are not optimized for Google. I curse, I have strange titles and stuff like that. But what I would say actually is blog mostly for existential purposes. Blog for fun. Blog for yourself. Even if you only had one reader, or even if you had no readers, I think it's good. So let me give you some personal reasons why I blog. The biggest benefit of blogging to me is actually thinking. To be frank, I don't actually consider myself a writer. I don't think that's my identity, because I generally prefer to talk, and I have all these ideas, and generally speaking, I don't really have that many people in my everyday life to engage these ideas or conversations with. So when I'm blogging or when I'm writing or whatever, it's a way for me to think. It's like thinking actively. It's like active thinking, and I start to pose certain questions. I start to distill my thoughts, and generally I'm trying to come to some sort of conclusion which will benefit myself and hopefully benefit somebody else. And so I was even thinking about the computer or the laptop or whatever. It should be best used as a thinking augmentation device, where a computer should actually help you think better or streamline your thinking process, or perhaps as a tool to augment your intelligence. And this is why I'm generally more of a fan of a laptop and a computer than, let's say, like a phone, or even, I think tablet's a little bit on the edge. But then I think a laptop is the best, most effective tool with a real keyboard to really quickly distill your thoughts into written form, which makes it more concrete. Also, I think the reason why blogging is good is that it's kind of a way to reflect. For example, when you're traveling, I do recommend traveling with a laptop, because if you could blog while you're on the road, while your ideas and your experiences are still fresh, by being able to blog about it and reflect, you better digest the experiences. And actually, I think it's probably better for a memory, memory augmentation, is that if you write about experience, blog about experience, you're more likely to remember it. I think. I'm not sure. And generally speaking, I have a pretty bad memory too. So this is kind of a good way to reflect. I think about blogging as a way to reflect on my journeys, my experiences, my thoughts, my life lessons. First, to gain appreciation of that thing I learned or I did or how far I've come. So part of it is personal appreciation and gratitude. And also part of it is just being able to share this information and knowledge with others, because like Seneca said, if I could get all the world's wisdom but not be able to share with anybody, I would probably say no. Is that for me, information, knowledge, and wisdom is only fun or enjoyable if you're able to share it. Or ultimately you want to share it, but even if it benefits you and doesn't help anyone else, I think that's totally fine and legitimate too. Also, blogging, I think it's one of the most empowering ways to use the internet. So if you're watching this, let's say you're an entrepreneur and you like to make photos, you like to upload photos online and share it, it's the best way you could control your information, your ideas, your thoughts, your knowledge, your artwork, your photographs, videos, whatever. Because if you upload, let's say, a photo to Facebook, let's say, you cannot control that other people are going to see advertisements next to your photographs, which sucks, right? Or if you upload to Instagram, you could only share it in that little stupid tiny little box. Like, look, what if you wanted to collage it with other images or add hyperlinks or anything like that? You can't do none of that. And so I look at Instagram almost as a Procrustan bed of Procrustes. The idea that there was once a Greek mythology, or I don't know, something like that, where this dude would invite people into his inn, and he had beds which were really small, and he'd have his victims lie in the bed, and let's say their heads or their legs were too long, he would chop off their heads and their legs in order to fit that bed. So that bed is essentially like Instagram. We're supposed to fit our images within that tiny bed, and then if it doesn't fit, we just get chopped off. So you essentially lose control, which is not good, because for myself, I prefer having control. And I think also the benefit of blogging too is that blogging could, you don't have to, but it could be a means to future monetize your passion for a living, or just a way to become more famous. I think people generally think fame is a bad thing. No, I don't think so. I think fame is a good thing. The more famous you are, the more empowered you're going to feel, the more people you can influence. And I'm hoping that you're trying to do good, is, you could use that as a platform to spread positivity. I think that's a good thing, right? There's a lot of shit happening in the world, and if you want to inject a little bit of positivity, yeah, why not be more famous? And you could be like Angelina Jolie, right? Is because she's famous, she's able to do all this humanitarian work and stuff like that. But anyways, and before I forget, if you're watching this video and let's say you have your own blog, your own website, just leave a comment down below, and then just say that, hey guys, this is my website or my blog. This is where I'm writing about check it out. And then maybe we could just kind of use this as treat this as like a forum thread where everyone could share their own blogs. Because I think the hardest thing is when you start off blogging, obviously you have zero readers and subscribers or whatever. So use this as a platform to just kind of get it kickstarted. Generally speaking, I'll have a trillion tips for how to blog better. But generally speaking, don't force yourself to blog. You should only blog if you genuinely enjoy it. And it should never be drudgery. And there's a trillion ways to blog. So you could blog on your phone, you could blog on your tablet, you could blog on your laptop. You could even write, this is what I used to do. I used to write things out on like a notebook, right? And then I'd later type it into my laptop, and then I'd upload to my blog. And do it for personally selfish reasons. Is that first and foremost, if you enjoy it, purely for autotelic purposes, for the blogging for the sake of it, for your own personal benefit, do it. And also share it with your friends. And even another practical thing is, let's say you already have a Facebook or Facebook or whatever, put a link to your own website or your blog link to it in your, let's say you write a new blog post, right? Just link to it on, to share it on Facebook, or like, let's say you have an Instagram, just put a link to your website or your blog in your Instagram, and just try to encourage your social media followers to go to your blog. The ultimate destination should be your website blog, not your social media channels, right? So like whenever you have the opportunity, always try to promote your blog, even your email footers, link to your website or your blog, or you could just email directly your friends and family and say, hey guys, I wrote a new blog post on this, check it out, and include a link like, I'd love to hear your thoughts, feedback, comments, critiques, or future ideas. So there's so many good reasons to blog, and I think maybe this is like the revolutionary in me, but yeah, let's start to blog more this year and moving forward as a way to regain the means of production, the means of communication. Let's not let this stupid Facebook middleman control us. You have lots of great ideas, you have your personal experiences, you have great photographs, great images, and other turbo thoughts that you can share with us. So yeah, create your own blog, create your own website. If you don't own your own website or blog right now yet, I do not recommend using Squarespace because ultimately you kind of get trapped in their framework too, which isn't fun. I'd recommend going to, first step, go to bluehost.com, and then you register for the cheapest plan, and then register your own domain name, which is your first and last name.com. So for example, erickim.com or ericimphotography.com, right? And then once you sign up with your credit card or whatever, then you could install WordPress.org. Unfortunately, right now, WordPress.org is really fucking confusing to use, but then there's a steep learning curve, but once you figure it out, you can do it. And if you don't know how to do anything, you can just Google it or YouTube it and figure out how to do it. And just start blogging, start sharing your ideas and things like that. And yeah, like if you have your own link to your own blog or a blog post that you've written that you're proud of, leave it in the comments below, and hopefully we could continue to support each other. So, in today's, it's currently 1984 and Big Brother, Facebook, Instagram controls all of us. Let's kind of rebel and use this as a chance to fully express ourselves. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Peace out.